With 4 protagonists and 4 potential paths that you will be able to play in the upcoming Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, you're probably asking yourself, who should I pick out of these potential options? And there's a lot of reasons why you may or may not want to play any particular character. Today, we're going to talk about just that, go over everything we know about these 4 characters, and how each of their stories and playstyles might suit you. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel.
The darkest dark.
Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, including my ongoing coverage of all things Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, then a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So over the last week or so, the official Fire Emblem Japan Twitter account has been posting character profiles for all 4 of the main protagonists for Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave: Kai, Leda, Theodora, and Dietrich. There's been little gameplay snippets, a little bit more insight into some more mechanics based on those snippets, and story segments about all 4 of them. As such, I figured now is a great time to go in, actually look at what we know about them thus far, and help you guys maybe decide who it is that you're going to start off with. As always, if there is a particular character that you want to jump to the profile for, I will have timestamps in the description and the time bar so you can do that. And there is one caveat I want to give here before we really get into it. Now, everyone has been kind of assuming that this is going to work the same way that Three Houses did, where you have 3 distinct route splits, or now 4 distinct route splits really, based on who you choose at the start of the game. However, we don't actually have direct confirmation of that yet, and there's even some hints that things might get a little bit more murky around the midway point of the game. You see, from the preview material that we've seen, the tournament arc, where you choose a character to go through the tournament and like follow their goals and their story and everything, feels like it might end pretty abruptly. The second thing that makes this a little questionable is the fact that we do know at some point some major event is going to happen that would appear to have our playable avatar, this angelic figure, come into the story. I'm assuming that this is going to be the halfway mark of the game, maybe right after the tournament concludes or before it can conclude, perhaps. And we don't know yet if that's going to lead to a point where our 4 different playable characters' paths might converge. So, just want to put that out there. That said, the character that you do choose to play as at the start does seem to be who your hero or your lord will be. So it's still worth discussing. Just keep in mind that things might function a little differently than we're used to, thinking back to things like Three Houses. With that little caveat out of the way, let's start talking about Kai, shall we? If you like shonen protagonists, rags to riches stories, protecting family members, and generally being a spunky kid, then Kai might be for you. Of our 4 characters and their different motivating factors thus far, Kai's is certainly the most wholesome and the simplest, simply trying to get enough money to free his father from prison by fighting in the tournament. Will that actually happen? Will Kai's father live to see the entire events of the game? Almost certainly not, and there might even be some hints as to how that could happen based on what some eagle-eyed viewers have seen, where during the course of the trailers that we've seen thus far, Kai's eyes actually change from gold to red, and it seems to be at least in part due to when he's using the crest stone in his hand to, fire off giant evil-looking blobs of black energy and magic and smoke and blow up a bunch of dudes and leave miasma on the ground. Could be a little bit of an indicator that something shady might wind up going on with Kai, a little bit of plucky protagonists embrace the darkness type of thing to get their goals done, which, hey, if you're a fan of Kingdom Hearts, Riku, my boy, maybe that'll be something that appeals to you. As it stands though, Kai starts off as a mounted cavalry unit riding this little ostrich guy around. He uses spears, and one of the things that the Japanese Twitter account has called out as one of his specialties is his mobility. His ostrich mount allowing him to hop over different terrain, be very maneuverable, very navigable. So if you want a character that's going to be able to do that right off the jump, Kai is going to be a very good choice for you. And we know that cavalry has always been very strong, or at least typically is very strong, in the history of Fire Emblem. So that could be a good reason for you to pursue his path. If you're looking for some mystery and some intrigue, could be some interesting stuff going on there as well, again, given the whole Creststone situation. We'll also always see him with Glasses Girl here. Haven't really seen her in gameplay yet as far as I'm aware, but she might be one of the route-specific characters for Kai, so if you'd be interested in having her in your team as well, then he might be a good pick for you. Personally, I think he's going to be a little bit of a sleeper hit. Obviously not as flashy as your giant muscle queen, your brooding edgelord knockoff of Alucard, who's directly connected to the history of Fodlan, or your angry, vengeance-focused dark mage dancer bard girl. Kai doesn't really stand out as much as they do, but I think he's going to have a little bit more going on under the hood than we would otherwise expect. Kai fans, if you're planning to start off with him, do please let us know in the comments. Moving on next to Lady Theodora, the Queen of the Kingdom of Salamis, and definitely a character that has caught a lot of people's attention, a lot of demand for muscular women nowadays on the internet, and she seems extremely interesting, a lot of draconic imagery here. Her main motivation is to achieve the goals of her kingdom, the dream of the Kingdom of Salamis, while also having a little bit of history going on with someone who apparently killed her father. So that raises some questions about how long she's actually been in the position of queen, and if maybe she's got a little bit more to prove than you would otherwise expect. Of our 4 starting characters, Theodora is absolutely the most bruisery of them, showing a lot of brute force. We've seen many CG trailers where she's actually been directly bodying cavalry and chariots, or just straight up hucking wagon wheels at things, as well as having special abilities that allow her to pull whole chunks of rock out of the ground and huck those at you as well. So if you're looking for a character that's going to be high strength, high damage right off the cuff, Theodora is probably going to be your girl. If you're familiar with the Gambit system from Fire Emblem Three Houses as well, it seems to be a unique system to her this time around, and much more refined, which I guess makes sense, seeing as how she is a queen and does have an army to, send out on military formations and do combo attacks with. I've always liked the Gambit system from Three Houses, even though it was very rough around the edges, so I personally am very curious to see exactly how Theodora functions with that now that it's something that is a little bit more specific to her and can be much more focused as a result. As far as what the actual goals and dreams of the Salamis Kingdom are, we don't know much about that, but Theodora has talked a lot about how she needs to earn the strength of a queen, of a ruler, something that can support her people and lift them up to some vaunted position that they apparently deserve, quote-unquote, to be in. Those of you who are big fans of Edelgard and Three Houses got a little bit of a similar feeling from her here, to say nothing of the fact that, they both have crowns and all that fun stuff. And it seems like a lot of her starting recruits suit more of a barbarian strength axe wielder theme, even though she herself starts off with a spear. I know personally she's definitely a top pick for me. I do love axe wielders. I love high strength, high damage bruisers in these games, and just having the ability to do a lot of AoE with gambits and just raw power attacks that she can apparently throw out there makes her a very appealing choice, even though she might not be my guaranteed first pick. Those of you who wish to worship at the feet of the muscular queen, because Lord knows I guarantee there's a lot of you out there, let me know exactly what it is that is enticing to you about her other than the obvious, and why you're going to choose her as your first pick. Now, moving from muscular women to edgelord boys, of course we need to talk about Dietrich, and I'm going to tell you right now, this guy right here, he's my number 1 pick. There's almost nothing that can change the fact that he's going to be the one I start off with. But who is he? Dietrich, as you can clearly see, is someone who very much is embracing the tall, dark, and mysterious vibe, and definitely seems to have some connections to some past characters from Three Houses, namely Yuritsa. He is directly from the Fodlan continent, and has come to this land to find enemies to defeat and potentially slay gods, as his sword Answer is clearly a hero's relic from Fodlan that is described as a blade meant to kill gods. So we'll have to see just how anime protagonist we're getting here with Dietrich, but he's definitely got a dark and brooding history. His big feature, other than having Answerer itself, is that he's able to use HP to fuel these very powerful attacks, either dealing direct damage, allowing him to teleport around, including through walls, and I imagine we're going to have a lot of high-cost, high-reward action with him. He's clearly much more of a sword dancer than a brawler, so I imagine he's going to be fairly fragile. Think of Myrmidon stereotype, for any of you who are familiar with Fire Emblem's history, and I expect that heavy crits and big damage will be on the table as a result. Really, though, the biggest appeal to Dietrich for me, and I imagine for many of you as well, is the fact that he does have that connection to Fodlan, and his story will hopefully shed a lot more light on exactly what is happening there, and if this is in fact a sequel to Three Houses. I still think that it is. There's a lot of things that just don't add up, especially the reason that Dietrich would have a hero's relic if this is not a sequel, but we'll have to see, and I imagine we're going to get a lot of those story details from Dietrich himself. Given that it looks like he might be a descendant of Yuritsa or Mercedes from Three Houses, and how important their bloodline is in the history of that game, there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff to uncover here, I'm sure, and his gameplay does look like a ton of fun. Now, interestingly, in all of the footage we've seen for Dietrich, he's been kind of all over the place. We've seen him on the field, but not as like your chosen playable protagonist, but still an ally. We've seen a number of different recruitable units around him, and it's been a little hard to tell who might be a starting recruit for him, as we haven't really seen him alongside any specific characters, unlike, say, Theodora and Kai. That could just be fitting of his loner loner nature. Maybe he starts off by himself and then needs to pick up recruits along the way as opposed to coming with any recruits. But if you're looking for specific characters to start off with, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to see if there's anyone that is directly connected to Dietrich. Ursula may be an option, seeing as how we've directly seen that she also has a crest from Fodlan, presumably as a descendant of Marianne, but that's a big question mark as of yet. For those of you who are going to be picking Dietrich as your starting hero, do please let me know in the comments both that you're going to, so we can band together, and what about his character and his potential story has drawn you in the most. And finally, we should discuss Leda, the vengeance-focused bard, musician, and dancer, and the character who received the most recent spotlight on the Japanese Twitter. This is going to be a very popular option. If I had to guess, I'm going to say that Leda is actually going to be the most popular option. There's been a lot of comparisons drawn between her and Primrose from Octopath Traveler. She's obviously beautiful, scary, a very angry character, similar to Edelgard in that way, and Edelgard was definitely the most popular choice from Three Houses, and her gameplay style seems particularly interesting. She starts off as an infantry unit that can use swords and bows, similar to characters like Yuri from Three Houses, which is very cool. I always do enjoy a gameplay style like that, but she can also bust out an instrument and start playing some tunes to do all sorts of things, from buffing her allies to dealing damage to enemies to, oh, you know, casually summoning demonic beasts. There's obviously a very strong doing what needs to be done and sacrificing what needs to be sacrificed to achieve my goals message here with Leda, and her focus on vengeance, I imagine, is going to lead her to some very dark and very uncomfortable places. And I imagine that there's going to be some pretty interesting character conflict because of how vengeance-focused she is. Of all four of the playable protagonists, I think Leda's probably going to be the most versatile right off the jump from a gameplay sense. Having melee, having range, having some magical effects and other things that she can do with her music means that no matter what the role is of your overall party, there's going to be something that Leda can do for you, unless she just has absolutely abysmal stats or something, but somehow I don't see that happening. And of course, the fact that she has all this dark magic and is messing around with demonic beasts means that she could potentially have a connection to those who slither in the dark somehow, which is always very interesting too. We'll have to wait and see if she actually gets the ability to do any refreshing of turns like classic Fire Emblem dancers do, or if that's going to be something that we see on a different specific character or class. But if she does wind up getting that ability, she's probably going to be the strongest of the four playable lords. Leda fans, let me know what your thoughts are. Are you going to be picking her right off the cuff? And if you are, tell us why. I'd love to see the discussion on that one, because again, I have a feeling she's going to be the most popular pick. And that, my friends, is all four of our selectable protagonists for Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, and the general overview of what we know about them thus far. There's a lot of little bits and pieces that we could pull from different trailers and the like, but I wanted to give you all an overview of all of them so you can start figuring out who it is that you're going to want to play as when the game releases in just a couple of months. Once we do hit release, I might do a more updated version of this, discussing how each character plays, what their stories are like, etc., to help you have a little bit of a more informed decision. But for now, this is what I've got. Thank you all so very much for watching. Discuss your thoughts and your opinions and your choices in the comments down below. My name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope that you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there, everybody. And remember, be good to each other, y'all. Bye now.